3 small words. "Why do you like me?" she said gently while caressing his chest. He had already tried all the possible answers with a number of women, but not one had ever seemed to satisfy. He asked if she meant if he loved her. "No," she said with a smile. "I mean, why do you like me in the first place? We must like someone before we love them." That made sense. He repeated the question out loud before he could answer it, because the reason he liked her now could not be the reason he had liked her in the first place, and most likely not the reason why he would like her in the future. She laughed at the answer and put her head on his chest, lovingly. She could hear his heart beat, and he could feel his heart beating in his throat. He thought about what to say. She had an answer already. "I know why I like you. I like you because you are you, and you see me for what I am," she whispered, hearing his heart beat. "And because your heart beats faster when I speak." He was 42 when he decided having acting classes again. He was a doctor, and every day, coming from work, he saw the billboard of a well-established acting school. He had been an aspiring actor in his youth, but as he used to say, "I was a coward and took to med school instead." He now had the time and the money to take classes, just to prove to himself that he could act again. Nothing on trying to leave medicine, unless Hollywood placed a very good offer. But he wanted to smell the mold of the audience carpet, the wood of the stage, the pungent smell of sweat in the costumes before the lights were turned on. He kissed her in the chest and smelled her skin, trying to bring about that whirlwind of sensations. After 1 year, Luciana, a fellow student, a friend of both of them, decided she would have her birthday party at the Centro de Tradições Nordestinas in São Cristóvão, north side of Rio de Janeiro. He arrived at an Uber, and she was already there at the entrance. She did not want to go in alone. "Great, you're here," and pulled him by the wrist. It was a cold night, which in Rio is something around 18 or 20 degrees Celsius, and both of them wore coats. Their friend had chosen a typical northeasterner bar, but the Centro is huge, and she seemed to navigate the alleyways very knowingly. They got to the restaurant, and a handful of people had already arrived. They ate aipim pururuca, torresmo, dried meat with pumpkin, and there was a karaoke on. Somehow all bars and restaurants there had karaoke. They also drank chop and bought a bottle of cachaça. They were already a little high, and she asked someone to take a picture of them both. She sat on his lap for the photo and stayed there for the rest of the evening. That was when he started to feel something for her. "I don't remember that," she said, lifting her head off his shoulder and looking him in the eyes. Her eyes were dark, penetrating, but showed love, if not commitment. Her hair was black and long and wavy. She was almost a Led Zeppelin song incarnate. He kissed her gently, and they made love in that morning. They always had sex when they woke up. Somehow both of them had the habit of getting off the bed before the other woke up to brush their teeth, although more often than not, the other one was pretending to sleep, and that made the whole charade even more enjoyable. He said that one of the things he liked about her was the toothbrushing, and that it always surprised him. "But you do that as well," she said, but he answered he had never been with anyone so considerate. She had a mixture of anger and satisfaction with the reply, because it reminded her of his previous relationships. But she kept those feelings to herself, because the toothbrushing game was amusing and turned her on. Anyway, the story was true. He felt, before that day in São Cristóvão, that she considered him to be an old geezer, but that one knot in his brain began to untie. Maybe he tapped on some hidden part of his youth on that cold night. She sat on his lap, held his hand, talked to him. It did not flick a switch or anything, but it felt like the failed relationships were not any more constricting him any. It felt different somehow. as a praying mantis slowly molting a new skeleton and leaving the old one behind. Maybe he was putting his new head out, but he still needed some extra pushes. One thing she really liked about him was his ability to read many books at the same time. One in the bathroom, one beside the bed and one in the bag, and she liked the Gen X music he listened to. She observed how he cleaned the vinyl records and how he put the records to spin almost as if it was a ritual. Then he sat on a 60s leather chair and listened to the record. One of her favorites was the one with the kid and the rainbow. She almost always sat on the chair beside his and put her feet on his lap, and he caressed them.
"I like that you tolerate my ancient musical habits," he said with a smile. "And please, now that you showed me I have nice feet," she said, "please don't stop caressing them. It tickles in a good way. I thought only vain, feudal women spent their time grooming them, or that you only had pedicures in formal occasions. I found out going to the salon not only is fun, I like gossiping in there with the older ladies, but also it makes me feel beautiful. And it is a grown-up woman thing, you know. I'm not a girl anymore, but I am too much of a dreamer and not very knowledgeable about such things, or was not until you told me. I like that, and that you caress them listening to your music."
And he did not mind her musical taste, or lack thereof. It was not unbearable, and it seemed to bring a smile to her face, which he thought was the loveliest smile of the loveliest. And she knew he liked her smile. After the get-together at the Northeastern Fair, they shared an Uber and they held hands up to the stop at her home, in Flamengo. She kissed him gently on the cheek, and she went on to her apartment building. He noticed that she did not wear perfume, so his clothes smelled of her hair. He kept these clothes off the bin for a little while longer. Another push out of his old, congealed and tight self. "You still haven't finished explaining why you like me." She was not getting impatient, but wanted an answer. He asked her to remember one day in which they sat together in the body coach class. She said she did not. "It was the one I said you had beautiful feet and hands, but you did not take care of them." Then she remembered with a loud laugh, roughly interrupted because it was still early in the morning. They both agreed that starting the following week, she got to the class with her feet carefully pedicured and with her hand-nails polished and enamelled. "And that is when I started noticing that you had your vanity and you groomed your feet just because I made an observation. I liked that. After so many failed relationships, such a considerate gesture makes you look at someone differently. Then we started talking and doing scenes together." He could not precise the day, but the students went beer drinking after one class. It was in a traditional place in Barra da Tijuca, on a street famous for its bars, botecos, restaurants and nightclubs close to where he lived. After some beers, carioca beers come in 600 milliliters bottles. Drinking games were in order. A student named Veronica said that so long as he kept his hair and did not start balding, he would remain attractive. The rule was that who agreed had to drink a full glass of beer. He noticed she drank one. When it got to her turn, she asked if any of the men in the table thought of her as attractive. All men drank, except for him. Now he had to state the reason why he did not drink. He said that he did not think she was attractive. He was positive that she was the most beautiful girl he had seen in many a year, and that he felt calling her merely attractive was a failure of imagination. She blushed and smiled. A legitimate smile and a legitimate blush, a smile that reached her eyes. "You had to blush so hard for me to notice you had freckles." You hadn't noticed them before. No, he had not, but the freckles were very delicate. Anyway, he liked freckles, and he liked that she took the compliment blushing, and not thinking he was a freak of some kind. That meant they were connecting. I was surprised. Men my age are not in the habit of complimenting a woman that way, and I asked that because I had some self-esteem issues when I was a teenager, and sometimes they come back, and the freckles were part of it. That is why I like when you compliment me. I know it is sincere. That was very nice of her, he said, and he told her that after that day he felt he was shedding his old skeleton faster and faster, and that he started to feel the air and the sun against his skin again. "So you mean you began to like me just because I had freckles?" she asked jokingly. Not only that, he thought, but as the Led Zeppelin song goes, the girl I like, she has long black wavy hair and freckles. No room left for self-esteem issues. He was here for her, and he really admired her. "And I admire you back. Your intelligence and wit turn me on," she said, biting her lower lip. He knew what that meant. But seriously, he began to like her when she started arriving earlier at class to talk to him, when he noticed she was not empty of subject but was marvellously naive in her youth, and that she was different from the other women in the class, and that she took his opinions seriously and his jokes in jest, and that he felt his heart race when they acted together. And somehow he felt he was being liked back. But the day he was really hooked was when he saw her speaking on the phone in fluent English. Really? And why was that? He had studied English for 21 years of his life. They were already a little more than friends. True, the gossip was already going around, she said. For the most part of 20 years he had not someone to speak in English regularly. "That is when you started texting me in English. I thought it was out of your crazy, brilliant mind." Well, it was that in part, and she replied in perfect English as well, which was a pleasure. The other part was pure observation and nostalgia, and he sighed after each conversation, new air coming in to help his molting. They got out of the bedroom and got onto the kitchen to have breakfast. He cooked tapiocas for her. She had coffee. He did not, and still does not, like coffee, so he had papaya and a cheese sandwich. "These tapiocas are delicious. And what's more, you can cook." He said he planned on cooking dinner for her someday, but he had to get to know what she liked and what she did not like to eat, so he could make an informed decision on the menu to present for her. "We'll talk about that some other time. Now I want to enjoy my tapioca. It is so good." They had breakfast in silence, a comfortable one. After she did the cleaning up, she wanted to get back to bed. Again, the ritual of brushing their teeth. "So that are all the reasons why you like me?" she asked with a toothbrushing accent. When they got back to bed, it was still morning. He hugged her passionately. He kissed her in the back of her neck, which he knew gave her tickles. And eventually he said that the last straw was when they went to attend, with a group of students, in a teacher's house, a workshop on the methods of Stella Adler. It was not far from his house, in a famous island in Barra da Tijuca, the Ilha da Gigoia. The island was a mixture of beautiful and large summer houses, small buildings, little communities with small brick houses, botecos, nightclubs, chic restaurants, comida a kilo pizzerias, pagode, gringos, in short, a cauldron of everything carioca in a small island in the Canal de Maripendi. After the workshop, the group decided to stop to drink. She picked the place because it had cachaça de milho verde, cachaca mixed with an infusion of green maize, which was something she liked a lot. At a certain point she put her hand on his thigh. Perfectly manicured hands, nails painted in blood red. He had already noticed she had groomed her feet and her hands, but somehow now she was wearing lipstick and high heels. He did not notice the change. She arrived at the workshop without makeup and in Havaianas, and she was sitting in a simple bar with him and some aspiring actors, her hand on his thigh and the heels of her shoes caressing his leg under the metal table. As they left the bar and started walking towards the ferries to take them to the continent, they began to fall behind the main group. She said she needed help wearing the heels in the uneven pavement, and he gave her his arm so she could balance. He kept up with her slow pace, but felt that the terrain was not that uneven and that she knew how to walk in heels, and wondered why on green God's earth was she walking slowly. Then she suddenly picked up a pace. He saw in the distance the rest of the group get in the ferry. She planned all this, he thought. They kept walking, the pace now not slow, and her heels making a clicking sound that echoed along the alleyway. Suddenly she really stumbled, and let a low and high-pitched shout out, the high heel of her shoe catching a crack in the pavement. He held her by the arm not to let her fall. And then the inevitable happened. He held her by her shoulders, looked deep as silver horses raced down moonbeams in her dark eyes, and leaned her against a wall and kissed her passionately. She did not resist at all. They kissed for a long time. After a while he whispered in her ear, "Do you want to go to my house?" And she almost immediately said yes. That was when they first made love. And that is the last bit of information you need to know why I like you. I have been heartbroken for so long, and, bit by bit, you, by design or accident, took me out of my uptight, contracted self. I shed my old skeleton away, and am not planning on putting it back. And I try to give that back to you, so I think we are doing great so far. I liked the answer, she said, and yes, I don't know if you seduced me or if I seduced you or both at the same time. What I know now is that I have beautiful feet and hands, and that I should take care of them. She laughed and bit his shoulder gently. But tell me, Doctor, she asked, with an inquisitive stare with that deep black eyes of hers, are there any other parts left to shed? He thought carefully about it for a while. Yes, there was one, the one which had 3 small words inside it. When it finally cracked away, the words would flow straight from his heart to his mouth. And she would be there to listen. Or so he hoped. She still looked at him as if she was looking in his mind's eye. Yellow tigers crouched in jungles, in her dark eyes. I understand that, she said, and broke her gaze and lovingly placed his head on her chest. He could hear her heart race. But I think we are doing very well. We can wait. The girl that I like, she has long, black wavy hair. He fell asleep, listening to her heartbeat. That part that had the 3 small words would eventually molt away. As I lie here with you, then maybe, just maybe, my shadows will no longer run from themselves.